Hey everyone, welcome back to Topher Drives, where this week I've been driving the brand new 2023 Audi RS5 with the Competition pack. This has been a bit of an eye-opener for me this week because I've never spent time in an Audi and emerged from the experience thinking, man, I really love that car. But that all changed this week when I got behind the wheel of this new RS5 Competition. I absolutely love this car, and I'm excited to take you guys on my morning commute to Vintique Motors to take some photos for Bring a Trailer today. And I want to talk about what this Audi has been like to live with. We'll do a little bit of a spirited circuit before we just hop on the highway and do our normal commute stuff. But let's talk about what makes this a competition, because Audi's never really done this whole competition thing like BMW does with their M3 and their M4 cars. So it all kind of started when some current RS5 owners gave some feedback to Audi and said, hey, the car's a little bit bland, it's a little boring, we wish we had just a little bit more pizzazz, a little bit more flair and character from our RS5. So Audi said, okay, cool, we'll give you that with this $16,000 competition package, but you do honestly get $16,000 worth of stuff. And since we're behind the car, we'll start with what you get back here. Well, you get a lot of matte carbon fiber bits. You can see we have this matte rear diffuser. There's a matching one in the front. We have a different exhaust. We have an RS Sport exhaust with black tips. We get black Audi badges. Normally, you would get some 20-inch wheels, but this is on its winter setup right now. So we have some smaller silver wheels on Conti Winter Contact Continental tires. And I think this is kind of cool because you can actually get this thing to rotate beautifully on these snow tires. So going off the wheels now, we get some front-only ceramic brakes, and these are massive. Look at those rotors. And of course we get red calipers. And even though these are just the winter setup wheels, I actually think they look quite nice. I'm not always the biggest fan of massive black and silver wheels. I like it just a simple, smaller silver wheel design. And I think it looks really nice, especially with this Nardo gray exterior paint. More of that black theme continued up front with our grille and a small amount of matte carbon here on the front diffuser, the bottom of the bumper, whatever you want to call it. And additionally, there's lots of things you can't see. They've kind of gone through and tuned and tweaked everything from the steering to the throttle response to the way that the transmission responds to give this car a more spirited feel. There's a couple changes on the interior as well. We get an Alcantara wrapped steering wheel and an Alcantara shift knob. And of course we get these Dynamica quilted seats in here with RS badging, and they have some piano black here on the side. But I think these seats look epic, and one thing Audi always does right are their seat designs. I think these look fantastic. So before we hop in and get started, let's take a look under the hood, because we also have a slight change here with just kind of the visual appearance, but also we'll talk about some power figures and everything else. So with the competition pack, we get this carbon fiber engine cover. That doesn't really super matter. What does matter is what's under it. So this is a 2.9 liter twin turbo V6. It makes 444 horsepower and 442 pound-feet of torque. And of course, being that this is an Audi, power is sent to all four wheels via an 8-speed automatic. So nothing really too crazy as far as the powertrain goes, but with this competition pack, they've been able to tune it and kind of make it deliver its power and its handling and everything in a more enthusiastic way, and we'll show you that once we're out on the loop. And then once we get our spirited driving done, we'll hop on the highway and we'll talk about what this thing has been like to live with. Overall, I'm jumping the gun a little bit here, but this is the best Audi I've ever driven. It's my favorite. I have not driven an R8, but I've driven an RS3, I've driven the RS6 Avant, I've driven the SQ7, I've driven a fair amount of Audis, and this one stands out as being my favorite. I also love coupes. I love the way this looks. Audis are always kind of understated and reserved, and they've got a nice balance here with the RS5. Of course, we have wider fenders and everything else, but it's just nice. I don't even mind the Nardo gray. It's just a nice vibe. Okay, let's hop in, start it up, and get on the road. Another thing you get with the competition pack, car will deliver it to me, there we go, are these red trimmed seat belts, which are kind of nice. Now, being that this is a competition pack RS5, it comes in at just under $100,000. In fact, this one is, I think, just about 99 grand. Let's take a look at the Monroney. Yep, $99,970. Additionally, we have the RS Driver Assistance Pack, the Navigation Pack, and the Side Assist Pack. And you get a rebate right now because there's no integrated toll module. So that saves you $125 and slots you right under $100,000. Base price, if you don't want a competition pack car, is $77,900. But if you're going to do it, might as well go all out and get the competition. In my opinion, that's what I would do. Got some matte carbon fiber trim on the inside. We still have a physical climate control panel. I don't really love the way that this infotainment screen looks. It's kind of just like an iPad glued to the dash, but that's kind of the Audi way, and I don't care because it works so well. Everything is so smooth, reacts so quickly that I don't really care that it's not the most aesthetically pleasing infotainment. What is aesthetically pleasing is our gauge cluster, and this is another thing that Audi always gets right. I love that we have a full nav screen on the cluster, but if that's not your thing, you can get rid of it, and you can have a bunch of different views on here that, you can have a small nav screen in the corner. I just like to have my big nav screen here across the entire cluster. I think it's a really cool look. 3 different drive modes, Comfort, Auto, and Dynamic. And then we have 2 additional drive modes with our RS button here on the steering wheel. You can customize those. I've got mine set up to everything in sport and steering in comfort because I really like the light steering here in comfort mode on the Audi RS5. Kind of like BMWs, you've just got your 2 programmable modes there on the steering wheel. But otherwise, you've got a standalone button for traction control, which is nice. That's still physical. Volume knob over here on the side. But that's about it. Let's hit the road and we'll talk about what this RS5 has been like to live with. So you guys know that I love a good Alcantara steering wheel, and I love the way this one feels. This car's pretty fresh. It's only got about 4,000 miles on it, so there haven't been a ton of other journalist and YouTuber hands to destroy this beautiful finish yet. But one thing I will say is I think the steering wheel's a little big, and I also don't like the fact that it's not a flat bottom wheel. Another thing I liked about Audis of years past is they would have the really nice flat bottom steering wheels, and they've kind of moved away from that recently. And write to me in the comments if I'm wrong and you can actually opt for a flat bottom steering wheel. I feel like I said that about an Audi before and someone said, oh, you can actually get a flat bottom. So that could be possible. I know that the Euro spec cars get a much nicer looking steering wheel, so it'd be cool if we could have that one here. It's also very thin. It's a very skinny steering wheel. It almost feels like they pulled it right out of the SQ7 and just stuck it right here into the RS5. But all in all, it's okay. What I love about this too is even in just pretty pedestrian and normal driving scenarios, in D, in comfort, you still get little farts between gear changes from this 8-speed automatic. And to me, it's all about that flair. It's all about the excitement in your day-to-day use on your daily commute. Just those little grunts, those little burbles between shifts are something that I just really enjoy. All right, let's put us into dynamic mode. We're gonna hit the test loop. Putting the car in dynamic mode will default you into sport transmission mode as well. We're gonna hang back and give this Fusion a little bit of room. And this fires up gear changes. You can really tell that Audi went in and just tweaked everything a little bit to just wake this RS5 up. And this was a very raw impression for me when I got into this car on Monday. It's now Wednesday. So I've been living with this thing for 3 days, and I got in it and I drove the little loop here, and I was like, oh my God, this is like the best Audi that I've driven. And then I did some research and I'm like, oh, okay, it all makes sense now. Yeah, this thing is, it's quick. You can also bump your shifter over to the right and that will lock you into manual mode, which I love. And it just fires off gear changes. We're gonna stay in third. Cold snow tires. It's so quick. It's smooth power delivery. Yes. Oh. And they've managed to bring some flair out of this 2.9 liter twin turbo V6. I don't often get excited by a V6, but this is one of my favorites. All right, I'm gonna shut up and just let you guys listen here for this next run. It's not the most obnoxious sound, the most throaty sound, but you get those nice burbles on the down rev. Oh. All right, we're gonna come over here and do a quick launch. There isn't a launch control programming there's no launch control programming that I've been able to find in here, and from what I've read, it'll still do a launch control, it just doesn't tell you that it's doing a launch control, so a little bit of a different sort of thing. But you just have to be in dynamic mode or RS mode, traction control set to off, and then you have to be in sport transmission, which is what I am in right now. And this is funny because this car is on snow tires, so it doesn't have the most grip off the line, so it's probably going to spin all four when we do this, but here we go. And this thing's good for 0 to 60 in about 3.5 seconds. And you can see that demonstrated there with that acceleration. Just fantastic, I mean, really. And they've got this sport transmission mode pretty dialed in too, to where if you don't want to change your own gears, it does a pretty dang good job on its own. It's very smart, and this goes along with this whole competition pack thing too. They have really nailed all of the tuning and just all of the little small perfected items with this car. It's just fantastic. Okay, let's get ourselves out of RS mode. Let's put ourselves into auto mode. Nice, okay. Of course, we have wireless Apple CarPlay with this newest version of Audi's MMI. Does a pretty good job. Sometimes I like to roll with my dual map setup. Go home for now, go on the base screen. One thing about having this map in the middle is sometimes I don't know what to do with this. I guess when I'm not filming, I usually have my Spotify music up here on the right. All right, dual nav screen has been achieved. Got about a 30-minute drive on our commute today out to Livonia, just on the outskirts of Detroit, I guess you could say, kind of like a suburb type vibe. And the Audi RS5 behaves nicely in all ways except the ride. Of course, with the competition pack, you do have to sacrifice some things, and the ride's very stiff with this coilover suspension. We have no electronically controlled dampers in this car. You can adjust these. There's 3 different settings for them, but you have to get out on your hands and knees and use a spanner or whatever, however you adjust them. And that's fine. I don't mind that at all. And I'm willing to give up ride quality for everything else that this competition pack RS5 offers, because I truly think, I still believe this is the best Audi that I've ever driven. And I'm not saying the ride is horrible by any means. It's just a little stiff, it's damped. Obviously this is set up for performance driving, and it really comes alive when you're going around a corner. You guys saw how well balanced this car was around those couple of left-hand corners we did back there on the test loop. And part of that has to do also with the sport rear differential. That's not unique to the competition pack, but it's a very well dialed in rear differential, and I'm sure they did some sort of different tuning with it or something like that, because I think it's listed on the competition pack, but you can have it on other Audi RS cars as an individual option. But it does come standard here with the competition pack. And apart from the ride, everything else dynamically, when you settle it down, when you put it in auto or comfort mode, it's so forgiving, it's so nice. You cannot feel the shifts from this 8-speed transmission, and the steering is light. Thank you, Audi, for making light steering when you're in comfort mode. I mean, why would you not want to have nice, light, relaxed steering when you're not doing hard driving? It's just the best. I've even got my RS mode set up to have it like this all the time, but if you wanted to have slightly sportier steering, you are able to opt for that in the RS menu when you're setting up your different RS modes. And we have lots of livable features in here too. We have a heated steering wheel, we have heated seats. Of course, we have this very nice physical climate control panel, wireless CarPlay like I mentioned. And these seats, while they are very pretty, they aren't the most comfortable for long trips. I took this car on about a 3-hour round trip yesterday, which I was debating on filming, but I knew there was going to be a really bad rainstorm and I didn't really want to be filming while it was pouring rain. So I decided to wait to do my commute today. But with yesterday's commute, I was feeling a little bit fatigued after about 45 minutes sitting in these seats, and I'm actually already starting to feel it a little bit today. So while these seats are pretty, they aren't the most comfortable thing in the world for long distance trips. I don't care that I'm slightly uncomfortable. All I want is a little bit of spark tuned into my morning commute. And this Edge is running a red light. That's like 50% throttle. Oh man, this is fun. This is a fun car, and I didn't get the same level of fun factor with the Audi RS3, which is really disappointing because I really wanted to love the RS3 and I just didn't. I mean, it was fun. I actually have a video of it on the channel from like a year ago where I think we did like a coffee run in it or something. But it was fun, but it wasn't as fun as this car. And you wouldn't really expect that. You'd expect it to be the other way around. Good grip here from these Continental snow tires. I was a little skeptical when they dropped this thing off and it had its winter setup on it already, but I was happy yesterday when I was driving in 45 degrees and rain. All right, anyways, now that we are merged onto the highway here, let's talk about some of our driver assists. Like any other Audi, we have our stalk down here to the left-hand side of the steering wheel. Pull it towards you to turn it on. Press the little button to set, and then you can move it up and down to either raise or lower your speed. And we have adaptive cruise in here as well. You can set your distance with this little toggle. But nothing too crazy in here. And let's actually get ourselves out of dynamic. I put us in dynamic to to do that entrance ramp. Highway manners are pretty good. Road noise, not too bad. The only thing kind of just carries over the stiffness of the ride as well as the seat, but everything else is good. Wind intrusion, road intrusion, it's fine. Also, if you hear a rattling, it's my garage door opener in the console. There are no rattles in this interior, so that is just what that is. But man, I really do properly love this thing. So as we approach a little bit of traffic here, I guess it's just a lane closing, but let's talk about some of the competition that this Audi RS5 Competition has. And I think the closest thing is probably a BMW M4. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say an M4 Competition. I guess you could go that far. It's a little bit more expensive. It makes a little bit more power, but it's a different flavor. BMW M cars are kind of just harsh all the time. And when you're in auto, when you're in comfort, this car kind of smooths everything out. Sure, you have a little bit of a rougher suspension just because we don't have active dampers like you would get in an M car. Thank you, Jeeves. But in some ways, I really prefer this Audi RS5 to an M car. It isn't as savage when you're at the limit, and if you want something that's going to absolutely rip your head off and you want to live a little bit in fear, then you should absolutely go for an M car. I mean, there's still savage machines that are just absolutely wicked, but this RS5 is not that, and Audis have never really been that. Audis always have a little bit more of a chill flavor, and even with the competition pack here, this Audi RS5 doesn't rip your head off, and I really like that. I really, really like this car. Great reaction there from the 8-speed automatic upon needing to do some downshifts. It's a nice Jag. And out here in the wild, you do feel a little bit understated. This isn't really a look-at-me car, especially in Nardo Gray. You kind of just fly under the radar, and the only thing that gives away a little bit that this is a performance car are your carbon mirror caps, and just the fact that it's a coupe. I mean, it is still a nice-looking car, don't get me wrong. God, it also just floats. You don't realize how quickly you are traveling. Calm that down a little bit. You always know it's bad when you're passing a Dodge Journey, because usually those are going about 150. So we're slowing it down just a little bit, and we're only about 5 minutes from Vintique Motors. Photographing an MR2 today, so that'll be fun. But my overall takeaway from this RS5 is that it is a really, really nice option now that they've kind of turned it up a little bit, given it a little bit more pizzazz, a little bit more soul. It's nice to have some soul in an Audi, and they've kind of been lacking that for a little bit. And this simple $16,000 competition package really brings this RS5 to life. And I would recommend that you have one, to be honest. If I were to be shopping for something that I'm going to be using every day, it's tough because there are things that are great about this car for every day and there are things that aren't. But I think it still kind of edges out a BMW M car for day-to-day use. So take that as you will. If you want something that you're going to be tracking, the M car is your obvious choice. Those cars are built for the track. And, well, actually, you know what? One thing I wanted to mention is that upon cornering and some of the handling characteristics with this Audi RS5, it feels light. And this is a near as makes no difference 4,000-pound car. So it isn't necessarily light. We have the all-wheel drive, and Audis in general are usually not light cars. This is like 3,900 pounds, but it feels light on its feet. When you're in the corners, the lightish steering and that RS Sport rear differential really wake this car up. And it is just a joyous experience. And as I talk about that, I'm about to miss my exit. So let's hop over. Sometimes we get a little bit passionate and we miss our exit, but we made it today. There we go. I am famous for doing that. I've done that a number of times. Just miss the turn, just not paying attention. I've got dual nav screens and I still miss it. But really a fine offering from Audi. And if you weren't considering an RS5 in your search between an M4 Comp and whatever Mercedes is doing nowadays, I can't keep track because they're going back and forth between a 4-cylinder and a V8 for the C63. I don't even know what's happening with that. So I guess if you're shopping between this and an M4, give it a shot. The M4 is certainly excels in enough ways to excuse it as a comparable decision to this car, but definitely drive them both, see what you like. And well, they're both great cars, but I really, really have enjoyed living with this Audi RS5 for the past few days, and I think you'd enjoy it too. So with that, that'll just about wrap it up for us today. There's a Focus RS. As for fuel economy, over the past 3 days, I've averaged 19.5 mpg, and a lot of that was highway. So I would consider this to be a pretty accurate rating for if you are using this car on a day-to-day commuting basis. You're doing a little bit of highway, a little bit of road combined. 19.5 mpg. I'm sure you could have it up in the 20s if you were really trying to get the most out of this twin turbo V6. And of course it could go the other way as well. If you're flogging it everywhere, you're probably only going to be getting about 16 mpg. So, but it's not the least efficient thing in the world. I'll give it that. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for us today. Looks like we have some things going on. But thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.